Good morning, Outlaw Bookseller here. It's approximately 8:40 and nice and early in the morning. I'm a bit of an early bird. I've got to get out there today and meet two of my ex-bookselling friends for a beer by the river. So I thought I'd do something early because later on when I come home, that I will not be in any fit state to post anything. And so I thought I'd better get in early, really. And because this evening I'll transform into Ken Shapeless, the amorphous one, due to imbibing alcohol and generally being old and tired. So let's kick off with things now before things get too late. And unfortunately, the writer I'm going to talk about today is too late for him. He died in 2008. He's a very neglected and underrated figure. And if you like SF, you should really get out there, get some of his books and read him because he was absolutely marvelous. I'm talking about Barrington J Bayley. Barrington Bayley, author of The Garments of Sayan, which is a book that I cover in 100 Must-Read Science Fiction Novels, and one of my favourite SF novels. And Barrington Bayley came up through New Worlds magazine in the 60s. He was writing SF in the 50s. He had some things published in magazines then. He was a major figure in the New Wave revolution in New Worlds under Michael Moorcock's editorship. He and Mike co-wrote some stories together under the name Mike Barrington. And Moorcock always said that Barrington was cleverer than he was. And I'm not so sure if that's the case. He had a rough time, really. He was he was published by Allison and Busby in the 70s in hardcover, and there was some dispute over royalties, and it went to court. And I don't know exactly what happened, but Barrington Bailey ended up in a rather sort of difficult situation. He had to sort of get full-time jobs, what a terrible thing for a writer to have to do, but it's really common. He actually had to work in a coal mine at one point to make money, which is really, really sad. Your writer shouldn't be doing that. Nobody should be doing that. Obviously, my grandfathers did it, and some of my friends in Wales, they'll have had similar experiences growing up, seeing their grandparents or parents suffering from diseases related to coal mining. Terrible thing. But Bailey is the sort of unsung hero of dark British space opera, really. The first person we tend to think of in that way is M. John Harrison, particularly with the Centauri device, which came out in the mid-70s, which is a book we think of because, of course, M. John had a big space opera comeback at the end of the last century and the first sort of 15 years of the century with the Light trilogy. And Iain Banks had a quote on the cover of Light which said, "Light is brilliant," so everybody buys it. But what a lot of people discover is that M. John's work can be quite difficult, and this book really divides people. Some people hate it, some people love it. I struggled with it the first time, but I really like it now, and it's Gollanc's masterwork. So because Mike is still with us, still writing, and he's wonderful literary writing, he's a total genre buster, people tend to think of this first. I've just realised this rather scary jacket from Unwin. It's really terrible. I really don't like that jacket, but the book is still in good nick. It's a great book. This is a copy he signed and inscribed for me when he stayed at a flat I had in 1989 after we did an event one night to promote his mainstream novel Climbers, which is an absolutely brilliant book, and I'll talk about again. So he's the first person you think of, and he obviously influenced Iain M Banks, Colin Greenland, and then the generation that sort of came along after that, Peter F. Hamilton, Alistair Reynolds, they would be familiar with M. John, and they'd also be familiar with Barrington Bailey as well. And the thing with Bailey is that he's kind of forgotten now. So I suspect a lot of the younger writers, people like Gareth Powell, those sort of people who have been writing space opera in recent years, I may be wrong, forgive me if I am wrong, guys, may not be aware of Barrington Bailey or may not have become aware of him until comparatively recently. I don't think he has anything in print. Maybe in the States there's some stuff from Cosmos Wildside, but I just want to talk about him. His first novel is The Star Virus from 1970s, one I haven't got. There's about four I haven't got, but I've been reading his other work for a long time. And I just want to look through the books which he published in the late 70s, mostly with Fontana and Alison Busby in hardcover. This is The Garments of Sayan, and this is a genuinely original science fiction novel. Very entertaining. And what I like about it is that it's about clothes. It's about a society where the clothes make the man, and the clothes often are augmented with technology. So it's kind of a precursor of some cyberpunk things, really. And if you sort of are a tailor in this society, then you're quite an important person. But if you're a really good tailor, you become a sartorial, and that is the sort of highest position you can have in society, really. And it's a great, great story. I really do pick it up, because it's traditional SF. It's fast moving. It's inventive. It's very baroque. You can see shades of Bester in there. Very colourful, quirky, and it's a really great read. It's my favourite Bayley. Probably his most acclaimed book is this book, which has different titles and different editions. This is a let's see, Orbit edition, and it's, as it says in the cover, Soul of a Robot. I think the hardcover is Soul of the Robot, and I think Soul of the Robot is a better title. And this is a sort of Candide Voltaire type thing about a robot who is created by two lovely old people in a forest, I seem to remember, and he comes to consciousness and wanders off and has all sorts of adventures. Something John Sladek did as well. There's obviously shades of Frankenstein in that. His name's Just Boderus, and he makes his way through the world having all sorts of adventures, and it's a very fabulous book. It's got a very classical feel to it, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so lauded, and it is really, really good. You do feel when you're reading it that you're reading an old classic sort of post-enlightenment sort of text, a satire. It's an excellent book, and you really should pick it up. But it's the sort of thing that should be in Gollock's Masterworks and isn't. That one and Garments are saying very much so. Another Bayley to watch out for. I don't know how easy they are to get second hand. You probably get some like Hay and Wire. There used to be loads of them around because they didn't really catch on. I think he was too original and intelligent for the average space opera reader. Is the Grand Wheel. This is a lovely copy of the Grand Wheel. I'm really so proud of this. It's really beautiful. It's like almost unread. I didn't buy any of these new, I'm ashamed to say, because they were pretty much out of print by the time I got to the right age for them. And this is about gambling, slightly based on gambling. So that sort of reminds me a bit of Solar Lottery by Philip K. Dick. This is actually a better book, in my opinion, by a long way. Great. Do watch out for that. That's another favourite as well. In fact, there are so many of these that are just marvellous. Then Collision with Kronos. Another excellent book worth looking out for. The Fall of Chronopolis. This is very sort of vivid and livid. I remember this is about time and time travel, that sort of thing. And there's characters with these enormous stovepipe hats, and it's got quite a steampunk feel to it. And when you're reading it, I remember sitting back thinking, gosh, this is really strange, but it's the very, very stuff of what makes SF exciting and interesting to read, and colourful and flavoursome. Again, fantastic book. I mean, I can't speak highly enough of all of the books I've covered so far. They're all great. If you want us to look at Bayley's more experimental work, this is the short story collection, The Night of the Limits. And there's some really flaky stuff, and you a lot of it from New Worlds. And this is the kind of stuff that Mike Norcott raves about. And it is very interesting if you like that sort of dark, experimental, modernist, new wave stuff from the 60s. This is a key book that you really need to have. And some of it is quite different to his novels. But it's quite a common one. Again, really great stuff. Pick it up. By the 80s, he had signed to Methuen, produced a couple of books there, which I'm not so keen on. This is probably my least favourite Bayley, the Zen Gun. It's quite common. You can see in that the sort of widescreen thing he's doing. There's all sorts of strange characters, strange beings, strange spaceships. It's the sort of thing that later on became really common in the work of sort of British space opera writers. Very dark. You know, there's a lot of anti-heroic stuff in Bayley, which I really like. And there's one of his books is particularly anti-heroic. I'll talk about that now. Another book here from Methuen, which is better, is The Rod of Light, which is a sequel to Soul of a Robot. And this has Just Boderus again, and that's a cracker as well. And not as good as the first one. It doesn't have quite the same fabulous feeling from what I remember. And so if you've enjoyed things like Stanislaw Lem's more fabulous work, things like the Siberiad, you'd probably really, really like Barrington J Bayley when he's in his robot mode. I'll show you some things which are another format here. This is an Alison Busby trade paperback, a B format, I should say, Empire of Two Worlds. And as I said, there was a bit of a falling out between him and Alison and Busby. And this is really anti-heroic. It's about a group of criminals who go on the run, and they go to another planet and they force themselves on it, and they perform a coup, and they're really quite unpleasant. So if you like anti-heroic sort of noir-y crime type thing where the focus is on the villains, this is fantastic. I've actually got a Bayley hardcover here, which I haven't read yet, The Annihilation Factor. Lovely classic space opera cover, looking forward to that. And the last sort of Baileys I bought were published by Cosmos Wildside. This is another one I've not read yet. I'm saving them out because, of course, as he's dead, there's not many left to read. The Sinners of Earthspear, hardcover. They're from Cosmos Wildside. Cosmos Wildside do lots of great things, print on demand, paperbacks, and they do hardcovers. That's a jacketed one. That's great. There's also a book called Great Hydration, which is, about a planet being hydrated, and there's all sorts of daring to do with villainous types who are going to make a huge amount of money and get a huge amount of power of hydrating a desert planet for these aliens who want to sort of colonize it, and they're like giant lobsters. Giant lobsters are a bit of a thing in space opera, as we'll come to again. If you've read Charles Stross's Accelerando, intelligent lobsters are a big thing in that. There must be something about lobsters that appeals to SF fans. Well, that's Barrington J Bayley. So if you could pick up just one book by him, go for the Garments of Saren. But the first 3, 4, 5, all of those, absolutely marvelous, great books, pure SF, the true master and the true inventor of British dark space opera. What more can you say? Well, I'm off that now, and maybe I'll see you later. Bye.